Hey everyone. So yesterday I was talking about how there's going to be less jobs in the future. There's going to be more people competing for the same jobs, and it's going to be harder to stay relevant because AI changes the skills which are relevant, as well as it empowers other people to upskill very quickly. So the expertise we might have developed over the years, it becomes harder and harder for that expertise to protect us because it reduces the barrier, allows people to become experts quickly, especially those who know how to learn, know how to study. So, first of all, nobody really knows which fields and roles are going to be available and in demand in a few years because the landscape is changing so quickly. So, my aim is to focus on skills and strategies that are quite meta and robust. Anyway, so the first strategy I want to talk about is applying deliberate practice. So, deliberate practice is when we focus on the process and we're dynamic as opposed to only focusing on the outcome. So, what do I mean by that? Say, for example, we have to we have to carry out a task for our work, right? You carry out the actions and you get the outcome. What's someone who doesn't apply deliberate practice? The next time they have to perform that task, they pretty much just accomplish it the same way they did in the past. They might tweak it here and there, but it's intuitive, unconscious, unintentional. They're just going with the flow without consciously trying to improve the process and be more efficient. The person who applies deliberate practice is actively reflecting on the process. They're being dynamic, asking themselves how they can improve it, and they experiment so that the next time they do it, the way they do it is a bit better. And the time after that, it is a bit better. Each time it's a bit better. Those little improvements compounded over multiple attempts results in a higher skill level and expertise, especially compared to the person who is just doing the same thing over and over again. So deliberate practice is, so in addition to being focused on the outcome, we're really intentional about the process that carried out in order to achieve the outcome. We continually reflect and experiment in order to be more effective at carrying out the same task. It reminds me of some quote I was reading the other day where someone goes to work for 20 years. It's saying that most people, they might be repeating the same year 20 times. So you might say that they've been working for 20 years, they only have 1 year's worth of experience because each year they're not focused on improving. The cycle is just repeating itself again. In practice, people do improve naturally. They might naturally find better ways to do things or they learn things, but the point is without doing it intentionally and without doing it effectively, then the improvements aren't guaranteed or they're nowhere near as impressive or valuable as they would be compared to someone who day after day or week after week, they reflect and they iterate and they improve, tweaking their strategies, they experiment, they're figuring out what works for them, what doesn't work, accumulating improvements, which over time compound and have really dramatic effects. I think it's one of the opening chapters of Atomic Habits where there's that example about compound interest. And the example it gives is we can make tiny little changes and we can achieve tiny improvements, which actually might seem insignificant, right? So he gives examples of improving by 1%. However, if you technically improve 1% every day for 365 days, the math works out that it was something like 36 or 37 times improvement. The way exponential growth works is that it really does skyrocket, perhaps counterintuitively if we haven't looked into the maths behind it. Anyway, so the point is small improvements compounded over time actually lead to dramatic improvements, which really just shows that in a situation where you don't improve over time versus a situation where you do improve a tiny bit continually, after a certain period of time, the differences will be dramatic. It's going to be pretty important. Things are going to get more competitive, and our ability to learn and improve is going to be so much more valuable just because of the landscape change that's occurring because of AI. There are going to be less jobs. Those who stand out or those who are the most skilled, they still position themselves favorably, maximizing their chances of doing well. And even in the cases where we lose our jobs and we have to learn something again, I want to talk about this in my next video about learning how to learn because it's another meta skill and there's a lot of deliberate practice that goes into learning. But anyway, so how to apply deliberate practice? So 1, reflect and review the process behind what we're doing. 2, experiment a lot so you can try different things and see what works better and what doesn't work for you. So the thing with experimenting is it might take a bit more time in the short term because you're trying to figure things out, but it's time worth investing in. If the skill is crucial or it's something we're repeating all the time, then we have the incentive to become more and more efficient and better and effective at it. The third tip I have is to learn from people who are ahead of you or other people who are really skilled and learn from their mindsets and understand their approaches. So if you can learn from a mentor, then it makes a lot of a difference, because often when you have someone whose expertise is very high, they often have more experience and they can see things that you might not be able to see, and their advice could save you a lot of time. They might have gone through the process of figuring things out. So if you learn from them, then it saves the time where you're reflecting how inefficient a particular approach was. They might have done that, and you can definitely learn from it and benefit from the insights. So I've seen examples where people journal every day and it's quite simple. And I've seen examples of journals which are really comprehensive and in-depth. So an example of a simple one is at the end of the task or at the end of the day, someone might ask themselves, oh, what did I do well? What could I have improved on? And what am I going to make sure I do next time? So merely doing a quick reflection has a lot of potential compared to not doing it, and will lead to experiments and efficiency gains. And I've seen hardcore examples where there might be like 5 or 6 questions and someone has to record exactly what they did at every step, and then they reflect on it more deeply, and at the end they intentionally come up with experiments they can do, and the next day they reflect on that experiment, etc. But yeah, tomorrow or in my next video, I think I'm just going to keep going and share the next strategy, which is learning how to learn. Anyway, thanks for watching. Yeah, let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video.